presentation focusing on outreach and education, particularly the meet new audiences. We have a pre-recorded presentation from Chalida, Uabumrungjit, from the Film Archive Public Organization. But let me introduce her a bit. So Chalida serves as the director of the Film Archive Thailand since 2018. She graduated in film from Thammasat University and film archiving from the University of East Anglia, United Kingdom. And since 2013, she's one of the executive committee of PIAF. So please let us listen to Chalida's presentation.
I'm sorry for the sound. Let me check with the sound a bit. Maybe can Rosemarie go to Sopheap first? I'm really sorry for that.
Yes, we can always go back. You know, during this stage where we have experienced so many online presentations, this really sometimes happens. So we'll just get back to Chalida's presentation. So now let's listen to our next speaker. Our next speaker would be discussing about advocacy campaign, particularly archiving and accessing the Khmer Rouge survivors' memory through intergenerational dialogue and multimedia application. So we will be hearing this presentation from Sopheap Chea from Bophana Audiovisual Resource Center. And let me introduce him first. So our speaker is born in 1984 in Cambodia. So Sopheap Chea grew up with a family who experienced and went through a notorious regime of the Khmer Rouge ruling Cambodia between 1975 and 1979. He earned his Master of Arts in History at Khmer University. In 2012, Sopheap is a historian who, from a young age, was curious about stories of life in Cambodia before he was born. That curiosity is what led him to Bophana Audiovisual Resource Center, initially as an audiovisual archivist and today as executive director of the center, where he directs many projects on the creation and dissemination of memory of Cambodia. To the honor. Thank you.
So allow me to share screen a little bit. Okay, do you hear me okay again? Event of the 26th SEAPAVAA. I want to thank everyone who have been working tirelessly to put together this wonderful event. And thank you, Sanchai, for inviting me to present the work of Bophana Center. And it is really a great honor for me to share the work of Bophana Center. Allow me to say a few words about the center. Bophana Center was founded in 2005 as a non-profit and non-governmental archive center committed to reviving the memory of Cambodia and fostering Cambodian culture through arts and multimedia. The memory and culture have been nearly destroyed by 3 decades of war and genocide. Aiming to reconstruct the memory of Cambodia under the term save and resuscitate yesterday and today memory. Bophana Center collect and safeguard audiovisual archive of Cambodia, including films, photo, and sound archive from around the world. Provide public access to this audiovisual heritage and train youth in filmmaking to facilitate freedom and artistic expression and for archiving the country. This effort will help Cambodians to gradually restore this priceless heritage and will enable them to understand the past, build their presence, and invent the future. And here is the outline of my presentation today. Before I start, allow me to provide a few background of the history of Cambodia. It's difficult to exaggerate the human suffering and destruction that 1970 and 1975 Vietnam War brought to Cambodia. Food productions fell rapidly as bombing and military operation forced people off their land and concentrated them into the city. In the month before the fall of the US-backed government, Phnom Penh was virtually cut off. Supplies could be made only through the airlift. Population in the city has grown up from 600,000 to almost 2 million people by 1975. After 5 years of civil war with the US-backed government, Khmer Republic, led by martial law, the Khmer took power completely on April 17, 1975. During its leadership.
Sopheap, I think the slide is not, your slide is not go.
Oh.
It's not move. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is only first slide.
Okay. Ah, okay. Thank you. Sorry for that.
No worry. Yeah, so during the leadership of the Khmer Rouge, many people were forced to work very hard and provided very little food to eat and offered no proper medical treatment, in addition to confining them in a specific area. There were also extra legal execution of civilians, soldiers, cadres, and party members who were accused of being the enemy of the Angkar. The Khmer Rouge called themselves or their government Angkar. The term sweep and clean was used by the Khmer Rouge to eliminate what they call enemy, burning from inside. So after the fall of the Khmer Rouge in January 7, 1979, it was estimated that 1.7 million people had perished. Just recent years, international, governmental, and non-governmental institutions have been working to raise awareness, to heal the trauma of the survivor, to prevent such event from reoccurring again. However, raising awareness of young Cambodians about the period has been a great challenge. As you know, in Cambodia, about 70% of the total population is under age 30 years old and does not know much about what happened under the Khmer Rouge. Thus, encouraging them to learn the Khmer Rouge history, facilitated by relevant and engaging tools in a search for the truth, is very crucial for a social transformation of Cambodia. In order to respond to the fast pace of technologies and to reach more youth in Cambodia, Bophana Center, with financial support from the European Union and Ray Foundation Limited, successfully developed an applications called App Learning on the Khmer History to teach the Khmer history through smart device. So this application is a multimedia applications combined of written article, films archive, photo archive, sound archive, artwork, and other interactive elements, especially the recorded memory of the Khmer survivor. Since 2017, this application has been downloaded by more than 64,000 times on Play Store and 51,000 on App Store. And this is the icon of the applications. If you go to App Stores or Play Store, you just use the keyword Khmer Rouge, and you will be able to download these applications. It is in English and in Khmer. Many, not only the written text, photos, and some archive of Cambodia, many others have been incorporated into these applications. Within the framework of the application on Khmer history, Bophana Center has also been able to archive and disseminate the memories of the Khmer survivor through intergenerational dialogue between the survivor and the youth. This is known as act of memory that allow youth, especially high school and university students, to talk to their parents or grandparents regarding the experience during the Khmer Rouge. The main objective of these projects are to make sure that youth become more deeply aware of and understand on the personal level the history and the impact of the Khmer era on their life, motivating them to prevent mass violence from occurring again. And second, that their parents and relatives are able to engage in healing process through initiating the conversation and sharing personal story. As you may have known that many of the Khmer survivors are now getting old. Thus, archiving their memory carry particular urgency because Cambodia national life expectancy average is about between 65 to 69 years of age. Providing that survivors who were between 20 to 25 years old during 1975 turned to their 70s already, so that the window has begun to close rapidly for capturing the story of the additional Khmer survivor. Act of Memory not only provide healthy conversation platform between the Khmer survivor with their children or grandchildren, but it also create a warmer relationship between family members and provide better knowledge and understanding to youth who conduct the conversation and to those who access to the recorded materials. The projects to implement this project, our team, including historians, journalists, psychological experts, conduct series of trainings to youth before they make conversation with their parents. First, youth learn some history of the Khmer Rouge. This can give them some idea of what to start for the conversations. And second, youth are trained in some technique of asking proper questions to their parents or grandparents. Third, They learn some basic knowledge for psychological support during the conversations. As you know, most of the Khmer Rouge survivors have lived with trauma. Thus, during the conversation, emotional moment or trauma syndromes might occur. So with some knowledge, you can deal with it properly. After the trainings, youth and documentation team schedule the conversation and record the conversations. Some recording takes one time of 2 or 3 hours, while the other take a few times of a few days. It depends on the feeling of the survivors and the situation between the children. After the conversations, all the participant youth who conducted dialogue confirmed that they have gained more knowledge and understanding by learning from the experience or the story shared by their parents or relatives. It helped them create better relationship. At the same time, their parents feel confident, comfortable, even happy to speak to their children or grandchildren and to reveal their hidden experience. They break the silence. The healing process is on the way and encourage more dialogue. For example, here in this slide, Sela, who was the student from history, she started to discover our project and proposed a conversation with her parents. And this is one of the conversations that she conducted with her father. And this is the quote she gave us. From Act of Memory, I learned a lot about my parent experience living under the Khmer Rouge. We create stronger relationship. By doing that, it helped reduce their hidden suffering. And this is another example from young people who live in Siem Reap, making conversation with their parents. The Act of Memory has recorded more than 100 conversations between the Khmer Rouge survivor and their children. These memories are archived at Bophana Center and accessible to the public through internet-based database called Hanuman database here at Bophana Center. And they are also shared to wider public via our online channel, such as app learning on the Khmer Rouge history. So if you download our app, you are able to see all the act of memory, all of the dialogue that we have recorded. We share also through our website, bophana.org, our YouTube, our Facebook, and other distributing channels. Some of the documents have been English subtitled, and we will do all the English subtitle when resource is available. We have captured the significance, activity, and the result of this project by examining its importance to document those dialogue at this time, showing the best practice and approach to archive to achieve the project objective and to evaluate the project result. So my presentation based on the comparison between Cambodian life expectation and average age of 100 survivors who participated in this project in order to see its significance to archive the survivors' story now. Activity report of this project and also the project outcome will be additional resources. Furthermore, interviewing youth and 100 survivors of the Khmer Rouge about their participation in this project is also used as a source to evaluate our project. So our experience argues that trust between the youth and their family are better built, while survivors share their life experience under the Khmer rules to their children, who learn the history and knowledge of their parents' sufferings. Additionally, 100 videos of intergenerational dialogue added as a strong element to serve public interest who wish to learn about the Khmer Rouge regime and also provide more alternative and more information to young generation to learn the Khmer Rouge history and encourage more intergenerational dialogue between younger generation with their parents, grandparents, and relatives. And here is one of the last example of making the conversation in the house of the Khmer Rouge survivor. And I thank you for your patience and attention. And I'm very happy to welcome any question. And I am sorry if you do not understand well the way I presented my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am particularly very interested in your presentation, and I know a lot more here in Gathered Town is they're very much interested too. So let's wait later during the open forum for questions and comments and reactions. So, but for now, I would be introducing our next presenter about analog preservation. So she will be talking about a presentation titled Born to Live. Ilse Assmann of Apricity Consulting will be okay. So let me introduce Ilse Assmann. So Ilse founded Apricity Consulting after first managing SABC Media Libraries and then the SABC TV News Resources before accepting a position at Africa's leading subscription television broadcaster, Mnet, to head the television archives and video library department. Ilse successfully led the department towards digitization and the digital workflow. So Ilse has served on various local and international archive organization committees and is a past president of IASA, International Association for Sound and Audiovisual Archives. Ilse, it's so nice to be with you here. So please kindly present. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Everything
Hearing you.
clear?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind words, Rosemarie, much appreciated. I'm going to try and share my presentation. I need to see where is it. Oh. Right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, afternoon, everybody. After that little hiccup, and what is a conference without hiccups? Very boring. So after that little hiccup, I want to thank the SEAPAVAA committee for the invitation to share our experience of building an African network similar to that of SEAPAVAA. Since Ray Edmondson initiated SEAPAVAA, I've been a keen observer of your growth and how you have established yourself. It is therefore a great privilege to talk to you today, and I really want to thank you for inviting me to share the experience of #Preserve Africa Archives industry program with you. So the recognition of television and radio output as having inherent cultural value not only assist with the information sharing, but contributes to examining and understanding the past. Since its early days, broadcasting, and especially radio, became an integral part of people's lives. Due to the ability of radio to penetrate deep into the rural areas, it became a vital source of information and entertainment to previously isolated communities. Of course, all broadcasts and recordings were analog, and it was hard to imagine the scale and speed that things would change. However, digitization was inevitable, and analog broadcast signals gave way to digital signals. Digitization also allows for the sharing of Digitization also allows for the sharing of wider distribution of content. Broadcasters and media content owners realized that their archives had more potential than simply the internet content providers. This realization, combined with the switching off of analog signals, became an imperative to preserve the African collections and ensure the longevity of materials. Despite the slow digital data uptake, here you can see in 2010 what the internet population looked like in Africa, and 2020 how it has grown, but you can still see areas where data population is still poor. The potential of the African archives is beyond any doubt, especially at a time when the local content reigns supreme. Audiences want to listen to and see their own stories told in their own languages and identify with their own cultures. For audiences, it's often not so much about how sophisticated the content delivery service is or how well a story is told, but rather about their personal connections to the story. Much of the African legacy is still on analog formats, and these require urgent attention. So after the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, Benjamin Pyer, CEO of Broadcast Media Africa, BMA, and Apricity Consulting partnered with SEAPAVAA and BON. SEAPAVAA is the Southern African Broadcast Association, and BON, the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, to determine how a broadcast and media archive network across the African landscape could be established and include all stakeholders. We also reached out to IHASA and Fiat IFTA, who gave their support and expertise to the program from the outset. We understood that the switch off of analog technologies was actually being overtaken by the uptake of innovative digital technologies relying on digital content. BMA was shown broadcast archives, requesting solutions, and as a result approached Apricity Consulting to start looking at building a network and working towards a solution. The hashtag Preserve Africa Archives, hashtag BAA, was formed in 2021 as a project program between Broadcast Africa Media and Apricity Consulting. An advisory board of experts across Africa was assembled to assist and advise in providing a knowledge base to enable a deeper understanding of the status of media asset preservation in Africa, establish the capabilities of broadcasters and media owners to secure the preservation of audiovisual collections for future generations, and work to institute a sustainable industry network of AV archivists and preservation professionals for Africa's broadcast and media industry. The industry program objectives yielded 4 deliverables. 1, we wanted to collect industry data in terms through specialized surveys. We wanted to organize knowledge disseminating webinars and training workshops, and therefore creating awareness for what we were doing. And we wanted to raise awareness and promote local archiving and preservation activities and initiatives. And finally, we wanted to create a viable networking platform for African broadcast archives. Key questions we asked ourselves were, how many broadcasters have started to digitize their collections? How do the less well-off broadcasters afford and manage the digitization of their archives? What cost-effective solutions can be offered? How can we assist? How big are the collections? What equipment exists and where? What are the training needs? The industry program objectives yielded 4 deliverables: collect data, organize knowledge disseminating webinars and training workshops, raise awareness, and create a viable networking platform, as I just said. Towards the beginning of 2021, we started releasing short, uncomplicated online surveys to start understanding the status of African audiovisual archives and provide a needs gaps analysis. The information was collected and interpreted before the results were distributed to a wider community. I must just point out that these surveys were by no means academic or scientific. It was really just an information gathering exercise. #PAA has completed 4 short surveys to date. The first one, it was just a baseline survey on the status of African audiovisual archives in February last year. The second one, depth of preservation requirements of broadcasters in Africa in April. Types and formats of legacy content in archives, September. And then the state of play of protecting and securing audiovisual archives in Africa in February earlier this year. The survey population was selected from networks already established via SABA and Bonn to engage as widely as possible with professionals across Africa. About 200 questionnaires were sent every time. However, we received responses from about 150 participants in total from across the world, not just Africa. Of these, about 135 respondents, presenting more or less 15 countries in Africa, completed the surveys. The number of respondents varied per survey, and a small number of respondents consistently reported to all of the surveys. And this is probably something we need to look into, since it made a definite change on how we interpret the information. I will discuss 8 sections that follow the flow of the surveys we analyzed. Types of audiovisual archives, which include staffing and responsibilities, collections, content carriers and playback equipment, digitization, disaster preparedness, long-term future plans, most challenging issues, and finally, webinar and training needs. The response rate was overall high for generalized questions, but lower for questions that required specific numerical data, such as hours of content or carriers in a collection. This probably means that archives either do not keep inventories or statistical data, or have not done any stock taking or counts to keep track of their collections. Our first survey, which yielded 54 responses, was purposely basic and requested information about the type of institution to which the archive belonged, integration of sound and video archives, staff matters and future plans. The respondents were from public broadcasting services, commercial broadcasters and community broadcasters, with a small number of respondents either working as independent archivists or at state institutions such as the National Archives. For broadcasters having both radio and television services, we were able to determine whether they are managed separately or integrated, and found that integrated archives are becoming a trend, something we found interesting given that these archives are usually separately managed due to the nature of the broadcasting business. Another finding was that over the past 5 years, staff numbers have shrunk in the majority of institutions. Most respondents indicated that they have professional audiovisual staff working in technical areas with fewer trained staff in documentation and cataloging. Expert legal advice, for example around copyright, was accessible in only 2% of the institutions, and 9% of institutions have professionals working in public access and exhibition management. Only one respondent indicated they have professional staff in all areas. It is troubling to note that a proportionally large number of institutions indicated they have no professional staff working in any of these departments. This was around about 22% of the respondents. With regard to collecting archival material, the majority of respondents stated that collecting archival material was part of the institution's mandate. Most archives reported a variety of materials in their holdings, such as scripts, photographs, books, and privately donated recordings. Of specific interest to us were the collections of the African liberation struggle, to which about 52% of respondents reacted positively. The reason to our interest is for these collections to be the potential starting point for digitization to make them more easily accessible, depending on the rights governing the material. It is interesting to note that the majority of recordings are held in television archives. This very loosely assumes that the majority of responses were from television archives, but it is possible that early radio material were not preserved. We found that respondents working in non-multimedia broadcasters were either working for commercial television broadcasters or for community radio services. We did not find in our survey the other way around, commercial radio stations or community television services. Ask if the archives have ever done stock taking of their collections to understand the size of their collections, the variety of carriers, and accounting for any missing content. Very few respondents regarded the process as sufficiently important to be done on a regular basis. About 1% of respondents chose not to give any details about their collections. When we zoomed into the specifics of the various types of content carriers in the archives, we received the poorest responses of all the surveys conducted. We decided to send another differently worded survey to respondents and received a more positive result, especially from public radio and television services. We were able to get a view of the carrier types and playback equipment. However, these figures are merely an indication of the collection sizes, as there are no uniform approaches for counting the collections or determining the number of hours per collection. A positive aspect was that the majority of respondents still had access to the relevant playback equipment. Digitization requires further investigation, but we began probing the issue with questions as shown in the slides. The majority of respondents have started digitization in one or another form, with 11% having outsourced the digitization process to commercial vendors. Respondents mentioned the use of hard drives as storage media and files stored as either .wav or .bwf for sound, or MPEG for MXF and MOV for moving images. In terms of disaster preparedness, which goes hand in hand with storage facilities, quantity and quality of storage, security, environmental conditions, we realized we need to further probing the issue, but questions asked about the disaster planning were added to a few surveys. One survey showed that storage facilities were perceived as a challenge by 15% of the respondents. In another survey, 52% of respondents said disaster planning policies were in place and listed the various aspects as per the slide that you can see on the screen. Security access was in place in 57% of the respondents' archives, while 48% indicated off-site storage areas and backups for collections. From the responses gathered, long-time archive preservation plans and strategies seems to be in place for most of the respondents. Only 17% did not know if they had long-term preservation strategies. On the other hand, and perhaps a bit worryingly, the majority of respondents do not have archive preservation policies in place, and when in place, found it frustrating that the policies were not supported or adhered to. When asked about the most pressing challenges the archives were facing, funding and the lack of adherence to archive policies ranked high. Other factors listed, and they are not necessarily included on this slide, updated inventories, tracking digital files, sufficient cataloging processes and tagging of content, rights management issues, a lack of actionable reports, absence of statistical reports, one set keeping dictionaries and thesauri up to date, as well as no systems for managing electronic records effectively. During 2021, #PAA hosted a number of webinars and focused on audiovisual archive preservation standards and strategies, auditing and preparing audiovisual collections for digitization, realizing commercial value and monetizing of archived content, and safeguarding and disaster preparedness for audiovisual archive. In an effort to prepare for 2022, we released a needs survey towards the end of 2021. We received 24 responses requesting the following topics for seven webinars, and I've marked those in a turquoise blue. Setting audiovisual archival standards, managing audio, video, and photograph collections, and IP and rights management. With regard to training workshops, the following topics were more popular: intellectual control of audiovisual collections, that is cataloging, indexing, tagging, etc. How to write archive policies, IP rights management, and access to audiovisual collections. The webinars attracted a fair number of delegates, with disaster preparedness, the last webinar we did, as being the most successful to date. These webinars helped to establish #PAA as an industry program and created awareness for the work we're doing. Towards the end of 2021, a website under the banner of BMA was designed, and people were encouraged to sign up for free, with benefits such as lower training fees and free access to webinars. I think to date we have signed up 400 people, but we're verifying the number. At the same time, Focal and NOAA were welcome to the ambit of #PAA. We kicked off 2022 with a joint webinar with Focal on licensing content from African continent. In June 2022, we held our first online training workshop on managing audio, video, and photograph collections, best practices and standards. The next workshop is planned for August 2022. In conclusion, these surveys are not regarded as conclusive, but merely an indicative of trends and gathering of information. Much more work needs to be done to ensure quality responses and more meaningful analysis. Across the board, shortcomings indicated insufficient funding, lack of modern technology, and inadequate training, impacting on the work of archivists. Acknowledging that a lack of funding remains one of the main concerns of archival institutions, training staff appropriately and imparting creative problem-solving skills might prove to be the most sustainable way of helping to safeguard the future of archives on the continent. With staff numbers decreasing in the majority of cases, training is required to empower and upskill those left with the responsibilities of managing a large variety of material. Trained staff will also increase the likelihood of institutions introducing preservation plans and policies to optimize work and secure heritage material for the future. Looking back over the past 18 months, it is clear that #BAA is still in its infancy and has much to do to involve all broadcast and media content owners in Africa. Building a solid network of audiovisual professionals takes time. We realize that we've embarked on a very ambitious program, but we also know that unless we reach for the stars, the treetop might not even be in our reach. It's undeniably the responsibility of broadcasters and content owners to remain relevant and to ensure that broadcast and content archives reach their full potential as valued content providers and possible new revenue streams. As Africa is growing its digital consumer population, so will the need for content distribution on a diverse range of platforms. #BAA is inspired by projects such as Europeana to create a platform for legacies that otherwise stay out of reach to be forgotten. We're also looking forward towards associations such as SEAPAVAA to learn and to create a foothold on a continent rich in history and invite SEAPAVAA to contribute with meaningful advice and guidance based on your experience. I thank you.
Thank you, Ilse. I am very interested likewise with your presentation, and many with the interest of preserving analog collection will definitely be inspired. Though you mentioned that it's still in the infancy, it's always an inspiration. We always start from the very beginning. So thank you, Ilse, for sharing #Preservation Africa Archives. So we will definitely talk more about your presentation later. So I know,
Thank you.
yes, Sanchai told me that now we can hear out the pre-recorded presentation of Chalida.
Hello everyone, my name is Chalida Uabumrungjit, and today I would like to talk about meet the new audience during the COVID-19. Let me share my screen. One of the main activities of Thai Film Archive is screening 6 days a week and more than 400 screenings per year. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, forced the Film Archive to close the door in 2020. So we try to explore the social media platform. Suddenly, we found new audience who never knew the Film Archive, and we found a way to communicate with them. Using this new online platform has activated the archive in a multiple way and enable us to move forward while transitioning to the new norm. From March 18, 2020, one of the major activities which we have to stop after the government announced the state emergency was our daily screening. We have to look for other alternatives. We have our YouTube channel, which we did not use a lot before. We made a new plan to upload one film a day and create a playlist called Stay Distant because of COVID-19. And it was surprisingly popular. Besides the feature film, which were expected to be popular, but we couldn't upload that many because of the copyright issue, we discovered that the new audience were interested in footage that can connect to and they never seen it before. Now I would like to take you to look into more details. Let's look at some statistics. Thai Film Archive has joined YouTube since 2010. Before March 15, 2020, there were only 25.3K subscribers with 5.2 million views. But from March 15 to May 30th, 2020, less than 3 months, the subscriber increased to 26.3K with 3.1 million views, which is almost 60% compared to the past 10 years. In the past 2 years, 2020 to 2022, the subscriber increased to 117.4K, and we got 15.7 million views. These are the number, the age group of the audience. So 25 to 34 is the biggest group. But when you look at 18 to 24, which is the teenager that people think maybe they're not interested in the old footage or black and white film or something. The number is quite interesting. It's about 17.6%, which is almost the 35 to 44 group, which is like 18.3%. So then now we look at what is popular. You can look at the list of the top 20 of film. We have 2 feature films which have more than 1 million viewers each. So this is Saming Ban Rai, which is the top of the list, more than 1.2 million views right now, starred by Mit Chaibancha and Pechara Chawara. This is Dark Heaven. This is the first film that reached 1 million views on our channel. And there were a lot of viewers from Indonesia, but I couldn't find out what is the reason or who helped us promote, because it doesn't have subtitle, but it's a very lovely musical. This is the third film on the top list, Miss Universe Beauty Pageant in 1965.
Republic of South Africa. Miss Thailand.
So Apasala Hongsakul is the first Miss Universe from Thailand.
And the United States of America. The first runner-up is Virpi Miettinen from Finland in the new Miss Universe 1965. Apasala Hongsakul from Thailand. All right, Pat, Lorena, if you would help her on with her robe. Put your hands behind you.
This is the animation Amazing Incident by Prayut Ngaokachang, which is very popular among young people. And this is the first Thai animation that also show how Prayut Ngaokachang made his first animation. And for a lot of people who are interested in making animation, this is quite fascinating to see. It's a silent film. This is also another animation made by Prayut Ngao Kachang. It's an anti-communist animation, and it's also get very popular among young people and academics.
อย่าฟังเลยเวลานี้พวกยักษ์กำลังก่อสงครามร้อนสงครามเย็นให้เดือดร้อนไปหมดไปลูกมาหัดอาวุธไว้ป้องกันตัวซะหน่อยไปจะพ่อรบกันนักนักเรียนทั้งหลายจำเอาไว้นะว่าจุดหมายของเราก็คือกำจัดพวกนายทุนที่ไม่เห็นด้วยกับเราแม้แต่พ่อแม่ถ้าเป็นพวกมันก็ต้องกำจัดเสียด้วย
We also create playlists that fit into the interests of the audience, like historical event, political figure, the way of life, places that people connect. Reading the comment give us the understanding of the audience interest, and it help us create the playlist according to it. One of the favorite comments that happen all the time is, "I wasn't born yet," which imply that they might be the group from 18 to 24. Now I would like to talk about TikTok, which is a new kid on the block. Thai Film Archive start to explore TikTok in January 2021. At that time, I couldn't understand much. I think it was very playful, with a lot of jokes, and it's very hard for film archive footage to fit in. I owe it to my student in the media design class. I assigned them to come up with ideas, what we can use the film that we already upload in YouTube channel, and one group proposed with this is that they make a short clip from the video and then add more text to make it more interesting. And they also hint me that one thing about TikTok is that people love to duet or dub with the sound. So if we have like interesting sound, people gonna come and they will dub with the sound from our video, which is very interesting, and I didn't know it before. Now we look at our TikTok channel and we look at some popular video. This is the most popular video that got 1.4 million views. Only it's only 15-second footage of how people get vaccinated in 1959, and I think it's create a lot of conversation among people. Some they are funny comment, and the more people comment, the more people watch the this clip. And musical also very popular. It's the footage from the film Sugar is Not Sweet by Roque in 1964. This is from Forever Your. One of the interesting element of TikTok is that people will come to use the music of our video in their video, and for forever it is quite interesting that there are many people use it in the sweet making video like this one. So this is like traditional sweet with coconut. This one is the sticky rice that you eat with mango. Or this one is how you make the kaya. But there are also some people who dub. It's quite cute. Or you can also use it for unboxing the camera. This is another very popular video. It's the telephone operator in 1931, and I guess it was popular because during the time when we post this video, there was a phenomenon of scam telephone, that everybody get some phone call from someone and that's a scam, and people discuss about that in the comment, and it make people either mocking it or make relation to that, and it's very make it very popular in like 1 or 2 days. So sometimes you really don't know how it become, but one other thing, people also fascinate of how people work manually in the past, which they can't see it anymore, and also the fashion in the 30s, like the shingle hairstyle, which is like revolutionary during the period. These are also the elements that make people come to make comment and share. This is another example of
ชอบมีผัวค่ะยังไงก็ต้องมีผัวน่ะดีนะลูกเอาแล้วเริ่มบรรยายคุณภาพอีกแล้วธรรมดานารีต้องมีผัว
So the name of the song is that every woman need to have a husband. There are many people who come and dub the dialogue that she said that I don't want to have a husband, and then the mother say every woman need a husband.
ที่มันหมดสมัยไปแล้วชอบทำงานแล้วก็ไม่ชอบ
This is the one of the voice singer that she also helped popularize this video.
มีผัวค่ะ
So sometimes not only people get something from us, we also get something from the people in return. So if you look at our TikTok, don't forget to check the sound if someone dub or play with it. In conclusion, we are archivists, and by our nature, we don't want to alter our film. We want to keep it as close as the original film. But to get connect to the new generation or the new audience, this may be the way to lead them to appreciate the work we do. Thank you.
That was, as I always said, very interesting presentation. So we're lucky because we have heard 3 presentations today for our session, current session. And especially for those who just came in, we can see from the pinned post that we are we just finished hearing out the presentations from our 3 speakers, and that would be outreach and education, the meet new audiences, where Chalida Uabumrungjit presented. That's the last presentation we heard. And the first one was on advocacy campaign, the archiving and assessing the Khmer Rouge survivors' memory through intergenerational dialogue and multimedia application by Sopheap, Chea. And of course, we also were able to hear out Analog Preservation, Born to Live by Ilse Assmann of Apricity Consulting. So please post more questions, but definitely we can start with what we already have. But let me point out that if we can see, definitely technology is very present in the discussion. In Ilse's presentation, they culminated, aside from digitizing, they have their website. And in Sopheap's presentation, it's the app that they were able to use for their intergenerational dialogue, the multimedia application that he presented. And of course, we witnessed Chalida's presentation about the use of YouTube and TikTok, this all online platforms, the new media, the new technologies we have. So let me check the questions. Of course, the speakers, I believe they'll be turning on their videos. So Ilse, Sopheap, and Chalida, I know is with us here at Gather Town. So there. Yes.
Unfortunately,
Nice.
Chalida cannot be here. She on the way.
Okay.
So, but if you have any question about that, I can answer on behalf of her. I will be Chalida
Yes.
for one day.
We'll,
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Sanchai, for that information. So I see other co-participants here turning on their video. So please, yes, please, aside from those who are willing to turn on their videos, as Sanchai said, you can, when we open we're opening the discussion for comments and queries, but just raise your hand and I will, of course, they will unmute, or you can unmute actually, right, Sanchai? They can.
No, they can raise their hand and then I will
Yes,
spotlight on
and
them.
then
So,
yes, okay.
yeah.
That's how we will do it. If you raise your hand,
Yeah, you just press seek.
yes,
Press
and
the T tag.
or just post it in chat. So we'll start it with Gisa's question for
Sopheap.
Sopheap. So, where is the physical server of your database? That's the first thing I did. I downloaded the app right away when you were presenting. I immediately downloaded your app from the App Store, and so the question was related to that. Where do you keep your database?
Thank you so much for the question, very important question. For the apps that we have hosted on the App Store and Play Store, we use for video server, we use the existing server like Vimeo. We purchase the space and our video is shared on this, and we embed the link into the applications. And then we use the App Store and Play Store to host that data, because it's not heavy, it's not a lot. Only films are heavy, so that we have other hosting server. And for the database, for the archive of Bophana Center that we have recently, we have a local server at Bophana Center called RAID 5, something like that. I'm not really good at saying that. So we have one at Bophana Center and the offsite backup in other space outside Bophana Center. And the rest of the archive, other archive are backed up into data in LTO types. So we place in different place too. So as mentioned by our previous speaker, that digital preservation is a very ongoing process and life to learn about this. So we learn every day, and we are also care about what is happening. That's why we do as much as we can.
Well, Lisa said something about I think she's looking for the physical places where you host your collection. She said those are not physical places. Apps are not physical items, or am I wrong?
Now we are working on digitals, and we don't really have a physical carrier. Since Bophana Center is prioritizing the accessibility to the memory of Cambodia, our founder, Ratipan, provide first accessibility. So most of the archive that we have are in digital formats.
Yeah, so and she responded, that is great, and you have two different places, so no need to know where. Mainly they are really safe and physical unit. So thank you, Giselle.
That is true, because only our board of directors know where the copies of the archive are, on the management committees, and the rest cannot know about this. For political reason, for natural reasons, any reason.
Yes, that is very, very true. And actually, I'm definitely particularly can relate to memory keeping, similar to what you're doing, because we too, we're currently facing we're on the part 2. We experience a dictatorship, and now the son of the dictator is our current president. So that issue of memories, dealing with that, the it really brought so many issues of how we handled the past now. So anyway, maybe there are other questions that people would like to raise or just air out because we have time. I mean, we still have time, definitely. If you have questions for Ilse and of course for the Thai Film Archive, Shanchai can definitely answer for Chalida. Because I'm just restraining myself. You know, I have a lot of comments as moderator. I'm also, I guess, bound to help in the discussion. But definitely the participants are the priorities. Please kindly, I'm not seeing any, well, are there?
I have the question for Ilse. It's a really interesting
Yes.
project. So I want to know that you have any other future project that's coming up for the for the Africa. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that for the future.
Well, difficult question, I think, and thank you for the question. It's something that we definitely think about, how to grow this network and how to get hold of all 54 countries on the African content. So we started very small, very modest. It was not easy during pandemic. And as you've seen, I think internet and access to internet is a definite problem to reach out and get people to participate. But slowly we're making more contacts, and slowly we build awareness for what we're doing. And we try to include people that's already working, stakeholders already working on the African continent into this project, because this project is not about us. It is about the African continent and preserving the legacy. We are aware of a few, like I said in my presentation as well, we are aware of a few broadcasters and content owners who've started digitizing their content. We would like to get their experience. As far as I'm aware, they're not done yet with the full digitization as we find in Europe or in the USA or even with you. But it's something that we would like to monitor and gradually create, like you have, and the way IASA has and the way FIAT-IFTA has done, to create a strong network where we can meet on a regular basis, either face-to-face, which is the next thing we want to do, or online. But there's a constant exchange of information. Hopefully, eventually, we can find funding to see how we can assist the lesser well-off broadcast or archives, if I can call it that. So while we're focusing also on broadcasters, that is where the world that we come from, both Benjamin and I, we are starting to include universities and privately owned and also independent archives to include them into the ambit. So we looked at museums as well, and we slowly starting to get libraries and museums on board. So the vision is huge, and the vision is extremely ambitious. The continent is not small, but we made a start, and that is important to us. And we had really support from IASA and FIAT-IFTA with their expertise, focal, to come on board and help us with when we presented the webinars. And yeah, it is reaching for the stars, as I say.
Yeah.
I wish you can find the star soon.
Yeah. I think the need was, for me, working in South Africa in broadcasters and know how we were lagging behind some of my colleagues in IASA and in FIAT-IFTA. And working for a private company, a commercial company, where content will not be released due to competitiveness. Benjamin, that was asked to go and visit archives, broadcast archives across the continent in his networks, where director generals just said, just help, we don't know what to do. And you've got the network. See, let's see. We need to get funding. We need to get the process started. I think that was where the two of us came together and said, we're passionate about Africa. This is where we live. We want to do something with our legacy. I have visited quite a few archives myself, and I saw how material is lying there, just waiting to be grabbed up, digitized. And I love what the previous speaker has done with TikTok, for instance, making use of the latest platform. I think it's brilliant.
Yes. So definitely, Ilse, we will go back to you later because I see a question for you. But Clarissa asked a question for Chalida and Sanjay. She said, I have a question for Thai Film Archive. How do you get around copyright issues when posting films online and excerpts on TikTok? Does Thai Film Archive own all the rights for the use of music in the films? Would you need to clear copyrights separately?
Yes, thank you for question, Kalisa. Yes, the copyright is the thing that we are really concerned with because the film archive need to do have a good relationship with the copyright holder, so they can donate the film and then they can touch us that we not violate any copyright issue. So most of the film that we post online, even in YouTube or TikTok, is like public domain already. So in Thailand, if the film was released 50 years ago, so it will become public domain, or we negotiate with the right holder and we ask permission to post it online. So the film Sming Ban Lai, that's the one that highest YouTube viewer that we got, that the public domain, as well as the Dark Heaven, that's also public domain. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Sanjay. And now for Ilse. So this is a question from Julie Nialega. Well, she's a co-member of Sophia. So she's the head of Probe Archives in the Philippines. So Julie is asking, do you think what you've done so far with Africa's archive is scalable with other countries, especially for the developing countries? If yes, what can be a good starting point or how to begin with projects like this?
That is a very difficult question, but yes, I do think. I know that in South America, we're looking towards that, and Giza, you can come and help here as well. South America, for instance, have utilized the universities to reach out to audiovisual archives via the universities, and across South America, there are regular workshops, and they're slowly building up the networks. They're far older than we are with Preserve Africa archives. So I think it's like taking a little thread and start pulling it, so that you can start making sense of what there is in your area, your field of working, your continent or your geographical area. And that is basically what Benjamin and I started doing. We took the thread. We got the two biggest associations, the one in the north of Africa and the other one in the south of Africa. We used their networks and the willingness to help and giving us their contacts. And we started to put out surveys just to get a bit of information. The webinars, some of them were really very successful, others less successful, but it's a learning curve. And then we made use of the expertise of IASA and Fiat, IFTA and FOCO to help us attract people to the webinars and also disseminate knowledge and information. So I think it is viable, but I think one needs to be in touch across the world to learn from others. I learned from Paula in Mexico. I'm learning from you. We've never done this before on this scale. How do you do this? So if we can come together and learn from each other, then we can take that learning to where we come from and start pulling this thread and build that communities around us. So yes, I think it is viable. It's how you take that thread and start pulling it out. I hope that answers your question, Julie.
Yes. So thank you, Ilse. And I remember in another conference, last time in May, the I conference, there's a discussion also about FIAP's the minimum viable standards. So maybe that can also be a reference, right, Ilse? Aside from your experiences for PAA. So okay, we're going. Yes, go, Ilse.
No, very good point. Thank you, Rosemarie.
Yes. And of course, we're going back to Sanjay, but don't worry, Sopheap. I definitely have a question later. So for Sanjay and Chalida, is there any young people from TikTok who are interested about the archives itself after seeing the footage that you posted? From Effie.
Yeah, from Elfie. Yeah, that's really interesting question, Elfie. And I also have another answer for Elfie, but another question she asked me before the symposium start. But for this question, I also myself doubt about TikTok at first. I mean, I not sure that how we're gonna handling with this kind of short clip footage and how we will encourage the audience to get interested in archive. So the first early clip that we post in TikTok is the preservation. Actually, we shot the our archivist do some film rewinding or something like that and post it in the TikTok. But it's not get good response much. I have to say that, I have to confess that until we post the old film footage. And that made the people realize, oh, they have the film archive exit in the world. I mean, I have to say that because many people come to comment, not only in TikTok, but also YouTube, that, oh, they don't know archive at all. They don't know film archive at all. They never heard about us. So they thought that we are like a private collector who have like a collection of old film. So their comments like, oh, you have many such good old film, something like that. So that's the first start for them to know us, to getting know the film archive. So I think that's the basic, the starting point. So after that, yes, now we also trying to find the other way to approach this kind of group of young people and try to acknowledge them about the film archivists and archiving. I have another successful story from the Thai Film Archive. We started showing the classical film in the big theater like years ago, and it turned out very good. We got really good response, and nowadays, almost every month they have like a commercial distributor. They release the old classic film, at least 1 or 2 titles per month. So now the old movie is become one of the chunk that the general audience would like to go back to theater and see it on big screen. So I think we done quite good well in that way, and to bridge the new generation and the old classical film. So I hope that we can use TikTok or YouTube and that way too.
Yes, thank you, Sanjay. So, Sopheap, I have a question. The materials that you share in the app store or Play Store, those are all your original content. That's what I understood, since they are dialogues that you recorded yourselves. Correct? Am I correct in the understanding that they're all your original content?
Yes, that's true. They are all our original content. That is why we are able to share this for wider public. And we all have the consent with the survivor and also the young people.
Yes. So if because of your efforts, your advocacy, others would be interested to do a similar app like the martial law survivors in the Philippines, because there were already efforts to this similar intergenerational dialogue, but it's just via Facebook. Like videos are shared in YouTube and Facebook, but exploring the app. How do we, is there, and what's the the sharing of this setup, a collaboration, or what do you have in mind if someone approaches you and work on a similar advocacy platform?
Yes, I'm happy to share our experience. And if somebody from Philippines is interested in having discussions about this, we are happy to share our experience. I know that you have a lot of people who can deal with this technology, but we are able to share with you our experience in terms of the content creations. Recently, I have welcomed two people from Uganda who are also trying to understand how Cambodia deal with its past violence, and they have learned a lot about our works, not only the Act of Memory, but many other projects dealing with the past memory. So they really like the idea of having the application as well. So we share a lot with them, and we will set up a Zoom discussion to continue the conversation. And we are happy if you would like to talk about this.
Definitely. Noted. Thank you, Sophia. So, Sanjay, may I ask, while we're still waiting for a hand raised or posted question, Sanjay, you were apprehensive about the use of TikTok, you mentioned. Personally, I can relate. Until now, I don't have a TikTok account because when I heard about it, the very first warning about TikTok is it being a very invasive application. The way it invades one's data once you download it in like your mobile phone. You know that issue of invasion. But there's another side that it's so popular that despite that issue, it's either people don't know it or they they just freely subject themselves and just do it. So, and TikTok played a role in in our history, especially the issue of historical distortion. Before we had this issue of Wikipedia edit wars, the like the post about our history, the martial law, and it keeps on being edited. Edit, re-edit, and then eventually it went to other venues like TikTok where there's no more control. So people decided to counter it. Sacrificing maybe the issues of privacy, and it's really like what to do. So I really don't know if there's a question with what I'm saying. How do we handle it? Because if there's this issue of you're luring. That's the struggle. Are we luring people? or what?
I totally understand your feeling, Lost. I mean, maybe we are share the same generation. We thought that social media is like our private. We don't push our private life in public much. But for the young generation, they think differently than us. I noticed they use the social media as like as like that. They know that they don't care much about to showing themselves on public. They show their activities on public. They show they they push everything on public and they don't care much. But in my generation, I feel like no, sometimes something I need to keep it private. If I post in my social media, I will post only for group of friends only or something like that, So that's kind of thing that I think it's a generation gap that I come to realize when I try to see about TikTok, about the YouTube, about the comment on everything. So it seems like they don't care much about. They don't need to preserve themselves much on social media. That's the thing that I feel a bit. And you are right that sometimes it seems like we don't know that we are in the good or no good right or wrong direction. In that I can say, oh, Chalida is here. Okay, she said, you want to say something, Chalida, about this problematic about TikTok and the idea of privacy, idea of fake news, and how they handle with that kind of things.
Can I speak now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I still think that social media is still like something private for me, but I think I still have to decide which part we will share and which part that we're not gonna share. But I also realized that as I said in the presentation before, that in the beginning I was kind of hesitant that it's gonna kind of against our ethical choice or something like that. But I think finally people realize that we are the film archive and this is the job we do, like how, the quality of so someone can always come to comment that, oh, the picture is so nice, like good quality and so on. And there will be someone else to comment like, because they are the film archive, that's why. So we don't have to tell, people start to keep telling each other about that. And I think that's the benefit of it. Yeah.
Yes, definitely tricky, but I believe it's really a skill to engage in TikTok. I mean, I commend popular TikTok users and influencers because it's really a skill to to penetrate that. But it's really something to be worth pondering.
Yeah.
So
be careful.
so yes, so yeah, and so Chalida, it's very nice that we can still engage a few minutes of discussion with you. And I'm assuming that you were following us via Facebook, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's one of the advantages of our technology now.
Yes.
Though I know we're missing that face-to-face, we call it, or in-person engagement. But on the other hand, being able to like multitask, like you're traveling and still monitoring the conference or seminar, you can't do that when you're in person.
Yes.
So anyway, are we going? Are there more participants to there's still like maybe 4 minutes to.
Can I add some things?
Yes, go Sopheap.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about TikTok because now we see that a lot of young people are using TikTok as a way of communications, and to be good for them, I think that we should create proper content for them as well. If we want to understand them, we need to go with them to see what they really like, what they really do. So having some interesting educational content on TikTok is not a bad thing, I guess. And recently, you may have heard about TikTok Cannes Film Festival, that young filmmakers are encouraged to make virtual video contents that apply correctly to the format of TikToks. And I see that this is something that important too, because our young people is there. So we should try to understand how they think, and we should also fit them with some nice content also.
Yes.
Yeah.
And definitely be responsible in the literacy and the level up their critical engagement, I guess, because we really definitely had a different experience just recently when TikTok was used to distort our history and create images that were very not the historical truths. There have been versions and we're still confronting that. So that's definitely a challenge on how to effectively be with the young generation in a platform that's very popular, definitely popular. So I see reactions. There were hearts when you were saying about the young being in TikTok. So there are definitely those who see that advantage. So, Ilse, any thoughts on the preservation, the PAA doing, maximizing this platform? What do you think?
I think it's a very good idea. It's an eye-opener to see, Chalida, I hope I pronounce your name correctly, what you have done with TikTok. Whether Africa is ready rather, to do this, I don't know. If you do a search to find African content, you'll see that most of the African content resides with countries outside the continent. Very few of the African institutions have their own websites up where you can search for content. So we have a long way to go, a very long way to go, to get our content up and ready and accessible. But yes, and maybe by the time we're there where you are, TikTok is long forgotten. There's a new format out. But I agree wholeheartedly with Sophia and with Chalida that we need to engage. Just the way we engage at the moment in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, to attract more people, although to me it starts to feel that the platforms I mentioned are more for my generation. The younger ones have left that already. I feel outdated already. And like you, Rosemarie, I have not opened a TikTok account yet, but I think it's good. I think it's positive. And yes, if it comes from a reliable source, and others try to distort that, which you will always have, to your point, Rosemarie, then the archives could release the original and show a different perspective. So it's enormous, the possibilities that are out there. Absolutely. It's a question of getting there. And as if you will remember that I showed you where Africa was in 2010 and where we are now, you can see there's still a long way to go to get our content up and ready for what you are doing at the moment.
Yes. So as we approach the remaining like 4 minutes before we end our session,
Can I add something?
Yes, go. Please.
Yeah. Yes. I just think that right now we try to use YouTube as the the reliable source. So we try to post the original video there, even it's long. We don't really care if not so many people watch it or something, because we know that there are groups of academic and people who rely on that and they follow. From when I post it, I notice within 1 hour and the response, so that we have not big group, but group of serious people, and then we can take bits and pieces to play around in other platform like TikTok. Now I still cannot manage reel in IG. We haven't got very successful in IG so much, but I think we can play both role, have the original there in the YouTube whenever people want to refer back to, and then play around on other platform in like a small piece and to bring them and lead them back to the original. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, Sopheap, Ilse,
Yes.
Chalida, any more? Because definitely we can still interact via Gather Town. It's just day one, but for this session, going. Okay, so now we just witnessed our Symposium Session 2. We discussed about outreach and education, campaign, advocacy campaign, and analog preservation. So I hope we really did a very engaging discussion, though still in the online platform. But we hope we maximize this venue to bring forth very important issues of our archiving, audiovisual archiving community that we should be, discussing and pursuing. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone who's with us in Facebook, of course. We have viewers there too, and in Gather Town. Thank you.